Dorothy Goheen, and I taught family studies in room 204 for 17 years. I started teaching at Grey Highlands when it opened, when the school opened.
My name is Jim Griffin, and my first year teaching was at Dundalk, the last year that Dundalk District High School ran. And then the next year I was at Grey Highlands the year it opened.
My name is Heather Davidson, and I began teaching at Grey Highlands in 1976, which was the year I returned from a 4-year stint in England. And I could only supply teach for 2 years because there was nobody retiring, and then all of a sudden I got a permanent job. And I can remember the night Murray Juffs phoned the farm we were living in Dundalk, and he said, "Heather," he said, "I think I have a job for you." And I just went, "Yahoo!" into the phone. I'm sure it took his ear off. And that was the beginning of a 20-year stint at Grey Highlands, which was a wonderful place to work.
My name is Dick Cleverly, and I was there the second year, not the first year. The first year they were still building in there, but I came in the following September.
Well, I'm Noreen Brodie, and I started to teach here in 1968 when the school opened. I had taught 6 years previous to that time at Centre Grey District High School, which is now Beavercrest, and at both schools I taught phys ed, and I was born in Ingersoll and did all of my high school in Seberg. Went to school at the University of Western Ontario.
My name is Audrey Goldfield, and I was in the guidance department, and I also taught English and history at the early years of the high school, of the opening. I was in Grey Highlands a total of 9 years, and then I went into the guidance department as a consultant, and then I got into administration in the elementary school. So I ended up as principal for 12 years.
My name is Don Brody, and I started teaching here in 1968 after teaching 10 years at Centre Grey in Markdale. And I taught mainly science, physics, some chemistry, general science, math. I was born in Markdale and went to what's Beavercrest now. I was there the first year it was built, and then I moved on to university at Western in London. Graduated as a geologist, worked 1 year as a geologist, took time off to go to Europe, came back home. The company was on strike, so they wouldn't hire me back until the strike was over. In the meantime, the local principal died, taught science. They couldn't find a science teacher, so one Sunday night they called me in for a meeting. They said, "Don, you have a science degree, will you come in and teach science?" So next morning I was in the classroom teaching. I never thought about teaching before in my life. Edna Clube what I was doing for the first week or two, but I had a lot of help.
He and I had a thing that we did on the opening day. I'm sure you've already heard about, we are from Grey Highlands, we shall not be moved. Well, when I was here, I always played the piano. And the big thing is to take that key change from the F to the G. He always wanted to do it, but we didn't always hit it.
This was his school. If anything was going on in Grey Highlands, he was here.
He knew everyone in the area, he really did. And I don't know whether he enjoyed it or not, but if he would go to the arena or anywhere else and people had a child with a problem, they would not hesitate to come up and talk to him about that. And you know, he took it all very well, and you know, he was a great principal. I think that says an awful lot about the kind of people that were hired that first 10 years or so that he was here, that he could get people who wanted to come here, who were devoted to their subject and also to the kids.
Mr. Juffs was just an absolutely excellent principal. Actually, it was through Mr. Juffs that I came to Grey Highlands. He came down and asked me if I would come up and teach for him, which was an honor, a real honor.
Murray Juffs was quite the principal. He knew every kid in the school, and they couldn't get away with anything. If anybody did something that nobody knew who did it, he would find out. And the other thing is that he had already taught most of their parents.
My interview was in the second half of the first year, and they had just had a commencement meeting or a graduating meeting the night before I arrived, because I arrived in a Saturday morning. And Murray Juffs met me in the office, and he said, well, I need some help out here. And so Dave Bain was there, and myself, and we took all the chairs back to the United Church. And that was my interview to start teaching in the following September at Grey Highlands Secondary School.
Well, it was very interesting because the school was not completely finished. So my room, which was 204, was used for a lunchroom because the lunchroom was not finished at that particular time. So my room became the lunchroom, which was great.
Well, I remember it wasn't completed, and I think one of the first classes I had was in room 104, and I'm sure I had about 42 to 44 students in there. There weren't enough seats, so they're sitting on the lab desks.
I remember they had the staff dining room wasn't completed and the auditorium wasn't, but some of the staff would eat in the library in the study carrels. And I remember we were in there having lunch, and there were a lot of loose wires that were coming out of the wall. And these wires, of course, were for the idea was it was going to be hooked up to video and you know, you could get TV and stuff. And somebody said, well, don't worry about them, they're not live. So somebody put the two wires together and gazanga. So we were very careful after that.
He said nothing was finished, and we didn't have a gym. We had doors that led outside to the back, and that first year in the fall, early November, we were doing archery outside, and one day we came back and it had snowed overnight, and the targets were covered with snow, so we managed. We got the snow off and carried on. Later on, we did folk dance, and we did it in the hall just outside what's now the music room. I think it was the end of January. We finally got the gym, and you know, we thought we'd died and gone to heaven. It was just so wonderful to be in a brand new gym and to finally be in a gymnasium.
The one chap I just talked to was John Juffs, Murray's son, who now is retired. A lot of my former students are retired now.
I met last night two girls who had run track and field for me. I was track coach. I hadn't seen either of the girls for a long time. It was just so great to sort of renew acquaintances.
It's been really good to be here to see all the teachers that have come back. We're often expecting that, by golly, 50 years, some of us will be hauling oxygen tanks around with us, but everybody looks in pretty good shape. And there's one of our teachers, Dorothy Goheen, and I taught with her in Dundalk, and she's the oldest surviving teacher of Grey Highlands that's still with us.
Well, Dorothy Goheen and I taught those early years, so I have kept in touch with her. She and I have lived not too far away until just fairly recently. But she's now in Owen Sound and I'm in Orangeville, so it's really nice to see her. I just had a long visit with Jack Murphy, who was a former student and is now living in Calgary. And it was so good to see he and his wife Ruth. And there are so many today and Friday night. It's been wonderful to see everybody.
The school was having an odd and awkward day. And that was a day where kids could dress up in anything. The odder and the more awkward, the better. So I carefully chose my wardrobe, and I had on green coveralls, and I had a red knee sock, and I had a green knee sock, and some crazy hat. And I walked out. I was teaching in a portable. Walked out to the portable. And the first kid came in for period 1, opened the door, kind of looked at me, and I said, "Well, how come you're not dressed in odd and awkward?" I said, "I am." He said, "Odd and awkward is tomorrow." Yeah, I did a quick transition as much as I could, but I couldn't get rid of my green and red socks for the day. Grey Highlands was a very nurturing place when I was there. Supportive staff, very few barriers between departments or anything like that. We were a real team. And I think it's visible in the pictures that people have come forward, like the old staff pictures, very much together on trying to give the kids a good education.
Those first 15 or 16 years in that school were perfect. The kids were great because they came off the farm and the country kids, and they knew how to work, and was not very much trouble at all. I was in the wood shop, so I had mostly boys, but I did have the odd class full of girls in the class too. Yeah, they were good years. I enjoyed them.
My last days here were as a teacher were just so great. And when I retired, I was given this chocolate chip cookie in sterling silver. And that has been, I wear it most all the time. And this represents my family studies over the years.
It just was a wonderful experience. I met so many teachers who are still friends, and a lot of students whose acquaintance I'm really glad to renew. And except for this weekend, that wouldn't have happened.
The people on the arrangements, committee on arrangements, they've done a fabulous job. And I know they've made Dorothy Goheen and Audrey Oldfield particularly very, very grateful for being able to be here.
I'm glad I came here today. I've seen a lot of people I haven't seen for a long time.
I found the weekend was just really excellent. And actually, it was organized by many of my very good friends. When you taught here for 17 years, you had many, many, many friends. And it was really special.